Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Michelle Fondinauthor. I'm the author of the new book, Heal Yourself, A Return to Wholeness, the Integration of Body, Mind, Soul, and Spirit. I'm also the author of Twin Flame Romance, The Journey to Unconditional Love. All of my books are available in paperback, Kindle, and Audible books. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for subscribing below. Click on that bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. I do readings, 30, 60, and 90-minute readings. Twin Flame Romance, Life, Path, and Purpose. You can book that at my website, michellefondinauthor.com. I also have really quick Twin Flame Divine Feminine Boot Camps #1 and #2. This helps you on the healing of your twin flame journey. It is extremely affordable for the amount of material that you get. You can check that out at the links below. This is the occasional, I would say like twice a month, Divine Feminine and Lightworker reading. Today is Saturday, February 20th, 2021. And guess what? Today, Mercury has gone direct. It had been in retrograde for the last 3 weeks, and finally, it is now moving direct. Actually, it stations and then starts to move direct. So how have you been feeling, Divine Feminines? What I like to do is help you to focus on your healing and spiritual journey moving forward, including your light work. One thing that came to me as I was preparing to do this video yesterday, actually, I was preparing and I was going to do it yesterday. It did not happen. Everything obviously happens for a reason. Maybe the angels wanted me to do this when Mercury was moving direct. Perhaps that is the reason, I don't really know. But one of the things that did come to me as I was preparing this video was that you as a Divine Feminine, you are called to do your light work regardless of whether or not you happen to be in reunion with your twin flame Divine Masculine. I speak to a lot of Divine Feminines in my private practice, and a lot of what I hear is, I am waiting to do my light work, to do my spiritual path, to help others, to serve others. I'm waiting for my Divine Masculine and this reunion for us to be able to do this light work together. While that's a great goal, it's not especially what heaven wants you to do. What heaven wants you to do is to move forward with your spiritual work, move forward with your light work, move forward with helping and serving others in your special, unique gifts and talents now, even before you're in reunion with your twin flame Divine Masculine. And that's an especially important message because if you're holding back your light from the world, then that really isn't what you are intended to do. You're intended to help and to serve others in the best way that you see fit. Again, this is an expansive view of what light work is about. And I explained that a little bit the last time I did a light worker reading. So it all depends. It could be anything for you. But the strong message that I received yesterday was that please stop waiting. You need to get started. You need to do your light work now. So that is the message. Before I pick some cards, I'm going to pick 4 cards in order to help you know your area of focus for the next 2 weeks. As usual, I like to say a prayer over the cards. Dear God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, Mother Mary, Archangels, Angels of God, Divine Feminines, Guardian Angels, let this reading be of the highest light and love of God the Father. Let it bring light, love, and truth to everyone involved. Archangel Michael, please stand guard, casting away any lower energies with your sword of light. Romance angels and twin flame angels, please help Divine Feminines around the world to understand what they need to move forward with in their light work for the next 2 weeks. We're going to pick one from the Fairy Tarot, which I really enjoy. I like this Fairy Tarot because it is really a beautiful deck. So we're going to get one card when it comes to your light work for the next 2 weeks, and let's see what comes out. So what do Divine Feminines need to know to learn and to grow for the next 2 weeks? And we are going to get one from this beautiful deck, and it is called The Mystical Wisdom. And I have the books here for 2 of the decks because some of the cards are not in particular, very self-explanatory when it comes to some of the cards. So we'll see what comes out though. And this is the Work Your Light Oracle deck. And we're gonna see what is appearing here. All right, angels, what do divine feminines need to learn this week in their light work? And this deck is really, the cards are way too thick. They're way too thick. I don't understand why they are so thick, but they're hard to work with because of that. Okay, and then this one is the Love and Light Oracle deck. And we are gonna see what divine feminines, guardian angels have to say for this week. All right. I like this. You know, it's funny because I really feel that there are some repetitive messages here from 2 weeks ago, which is kind of interesting. And perhaps it is because Mercury has been in retrograde. As an example, Mercury has been in retrograde for the past 3 weeks. And so Mercury retrograde is a lot about introspection. It's a lot about conversations with yourself about the possibilities of moving forward. And also we had this square between Saturn and Uranus, and it's going to progress forward in the coming weeks. And I feel like there's a lot of that tension energy too, because Saturn is about constriction and lockdown, if you will. It's kind of like the constriction. And then Uranus is about freedom and rebellion. And so when you have like this tension between constriction and like the stern father telling you that you have a curfew and it's the weekend and you're like, hey, it's the weekend, I don't have school tomorrow, but the father's like, no, you have to be home by 11 p.m. It makes you feel more rebellious. But then you're like, well, if I don't listen, then I might be grounded and I can't go out next weekend. So there's been a lot of this tension. And as a result of that, I really feel that many of you, and like I said in the beginning of the reading, many of you have been feeling like you've been trapped on the island. And again, this message came out a few weeks ago because we have this Eight of Winter. This is the tarot card that came out, Eight of Winter, Eight of Swords. You see this damsel in distress, so to speak, who is on this little iceberg all by herself. It's like a little cube of ice, really. It's not an iceberg, but she's all by herself, kind of stuck on her own island. And right next to her, really right next to her is land, is ice, but it's land. And she could literally step right over onto that land and move toward the rest of the world. But fear is holding her back. Fear is holding her back from just taking a step forward instead of staying isolated on her own island. And I really feel that if we are to tie in the opening message with the Eight of Winter, it is that you need to step off your little personal iceberg and get on to the rest of the world. That is what this is about. Spreading your light work, spreading your light work to the rest of the world, and not being fearful and not holding back and not saying to yourself, we need to wait for divine masculine to come and rescue us off of this icy island. No. You can, of your own self-confidence, your own inner strength, you can step off. You can step off of your own personal little ice cube and you can move into getting what you want out of life now. You don't have to wait. You can get what you want out of life right now. Now, the number 8 is the number of abundance. It is the number of expansion, abundance, and infinite possibilities. So if you've been putting yourself into that box, sitting on that island going, no, the only way that's out is with my DM, then you need to expand your thinking. This is also a card that came out a few weeks ago, either 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. Boundaries. Where do you need to establish better boundaries? My goodness, Divine Feminines, what is happening here? I feel like you are testing the waters of your own independence and your own self in this new phase of your life. Many light workers have had their boundaries obliterated by other people. Many light workers have not set up boundaries for themselves. They've had these very fluid boundaries. And if you don't understand the concept of boundaries, boundaries is where I end and where you begin. And it's like the white picket fence around the house. And the reason why we have fences around houses is to keep our children and pets safe, as an example, and to keep other people who might bring our lawn, our flowers, our children, our dogs, our cats into harm's way by their reckless behavior, as an example. Like, you don't want somebody riding their bicycles across your lawn necessarily, or riding a motorcycle across the lawn. So we have boundaries set up to say, hey, this is where I stand on these certain things, and this is what I am not going to let happen, and this is what I'm going to let happen, but I am allowing it to happen. And many light workers just don't have the sense of that boundary setting, and they have freely given away their boundaries to others who have abused of those boundaries. Boundaries are something that you decide. Boundaries are not something that somebody else can just take from you. You have to allow them to take those boundaries away in some form of consent, some form. Now, I'm not saying that there are not situations in which there may have been some kind of violent crime in your life where you got mugged in a park somewhere or in a dark alley, and those boundaries were not just taken from you. I'm not suggesting that. What I'm saying is, in normal living, in daily life, in the people that you see day in and day out in your life, there is some form of consent if you have not put your foot down and said, these are my boundaries, respect them, or I am gone. And in every situation, again, unless if you are living in a prison, like I'm not suggesting these really, really extreme examples, but for the most part, even if you're in, like, for example, an abusive marriage, or you're living with an abusive parent or grandparent or whatever it is, what I am suggesting is that you always have a way out. You always have a way out. If it means living on the streets, maybe it means that. But you always have a way out. It is up to you to structure those boundaries and to enforce them. Because you can set boundaries and then not enforce them, and that is just the same as not having any boundaries at all. So I really feel like a lot of you, what the angels are saying is that a lot of you, in addition to being stuck on your own island or ice float or ice cube or whatever you want to call it, in addition to being stuck on that, you've been afraid to step forward, because now in your new inner strength, you're afraid to test it, because you're like, well, before people just walked all over me, they walked all over my boundaries, they didn't respect me. And so now I'm afraid to step out with my new inner strength because I'm afraid it'll be tested. Well, guess what? It will be tested. It will, because God gives us lessons, and then we have those lessons so that we can establish new rules for ourselves. We can establish a new set of patterns to break the old patterns. And then once we have those set in place, once we've made the decision, hey, I am not going to let this happen anymore, God brings in people that are going to help us test. Do we really have the boundaries that are necessary now? Or are the boundaries still weak? Do they need some tweaking? So rest assured, as you step out into the world with your new gifts and talents, or those enhanced gifts and talents, rest assured your boundaries will be tested. And it's up to you. It's up to you to say to people, I'm sorry, if you continue to lie to me, if you continue to not follow through with what you say you're going to do with me, then I'm gone. I'm out of here. I'm not going to stick around for this anymore. I did in the past, and I'm not going to do it. I'm just not. I'm not there anymore. I have my own self-respect now. I know my own self-worth now. I know that my time is valuable now. And this may even be things that you're saying to people that you really love. But love is action. Love is not a sentiment. Love is not a feeling. Love is action. And if through their actions, they are not showing you that they can respect your boundaries or your new boundaries, then it's time for them to go until they can, or maybe it's time for them to go forever. So I think this is what's being tested. So I love this because in your light work, we got this too. Geez, this is emphasized because the reason I believe this is emphasized is because you guys are not doing it yet. So we got originality, blaze your own trail. We got this a few weeks ago, either again in the last reading or the reading before. The reason we're getting these is because it hasn't been done yet. Repetition happens in readings, repetition happens in messages because it has not yet been done. So that is the reason. That's the reason why. Blaze your own trail. We talked about this. If you need to check out the Divine Feminine and Lightworker readings from 2 weeks ago, and again from 2 weeks prior to that, I'll put the links up above here so you can check those out. But I gave this huge speech on blazing your own trail, creating your own trail, being original in your pathway, and not like the well-beaten path, the path that we have been through as human beings. That pathway is changing. I know it feels comfortable. I know the pathway that has been there for centuries, for thousands of years, feels comfortable and it feels comfy, kind of like a good pair of sweatpants, but it's time now to blaze your own trail. It's time for something new. And that's what's happening in this age of Aquarius. That's what's happening in 2021. And in your light work, I love this. Oh my God. I have this quote, actually. I have this quote on my bathroom mirror, and I've had this quote on my bathroom mirror for 3 years, since 2018, since I met my twin flame. And it says, reflect God's compassion. In your light work, reflect God's compassion. And it's Ephesians chapter 4, verse 32. I love this. Like, this is bringing tears to my eyes because I love this. Be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God through Christ has forgiven you. And actually, this quote in Ephesians chapter 4 is much, much longer, and it is so incredibly beautiful. It is so beautiful. I would say, please read it. I mean, you can look it up online. Ephesians chapter 4, read it. It is so profound. It is incredibly profound. And what I believe is that those of you out there that are Christians and have studied Christianity, we know as Christians, for the most part, that much of Christianity as it's taught in the church, much of Christianity as it's displayed through many Christians worldwide, is not the Christianity that Jesus preached. It's just not. People are not living examples of Christ. It's unfortunate, but that's really the truth. And if you read Ephesians chapter 4, it's in the New Testament for those of you that are not well versed in the Bible. Ephesians chapter 4, it really outlines what it really means to be a true Christian, what it really means to be a follower of Christ, what it really means to walk in Jesus's shoes. Be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God through Christ has forgiven you. And I think that that is such a beautiful message for light work. For light work, it's such a beautiful message, and I would say the more expansive version of Ephesians chapter 4 as well. And it's about wearing the cloak that shows that Christ consciousness. Because in all honesty, it doesn't matter which way you choose to express your light work, whether it is through dog sitting, whether it's through teaching children to read, whether it's with being a surgeon or a physician, or whether it's just being a store clerk who checks groceries out in a grocery store. It does not matter. None of that matters. What matters is that you wear the cloak of Christ consciousness in everything that you do. Tender-heartedness, kindness, forgiveness, loving one another. God's greatest commands through Jesus Christ is love one another as I have loved you. Love your neighbor as yourself. So I really feel that as we are blazing our own trails, as we are getting off our individual islands and moving out into the world with our light work, wear the cloak of Christ consciousness, seriously. And you can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong. But have your boundaries, honestly. Jesus had boundaries, come on. Have your boundaries, but move through with the cloak of Christ consciousness. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for subscribing to my channel below. Click on that bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. Thank you for sharing this video with other twin flame divine feminines and light workers. And thank you so much for supporting this YouTube channel. You can buy a book or 2 or 3. You can also pledge your support on Patreon, www.patreon.com/Michelle S. Fondin, and I will see you in the next video.